Are there phases that you need to recognize or phases that you need to embrace, actually, to be able to accomplish, to follow through on your wanting to change something personally?
Yeah, good question. So it's not it's not exactly like, the stages of grief, where it's so well defined. With that in mind, though, there's a process that I believe in, and I believe in it because that's my graduate studies. I was at Case Western University, and I studied with someone. His name is Richard Boyatzis, and back in 1969. Richard first started studying how do people change in intentional and sustainable ways. Because we've all experienced that, right? We can make a change on January 1st, and by January 30th, we don't remember what it was, because we've fallen back. So he has broken it down to 5, stages, if you will. So the first stage, and if you want, what I could do is just hit him high level, and then if you want to, we can dive in. But
Sure.
the first stage is what is called the ideal self. So what's that ideal vision we have of ourselves? And if it's a couple or a partnership, together as a partnership as well. But what does that look like? And one of the things that's really important about the ideal self, there are no shoulds allowed. Right? Because Paul, that looks like that one resonates for you.
And with Glenn as well. Glenn, what's your favorite phrase?
We just had a guest on a few weeks ago that made a statement, don't should all over yourself.
Yeah. Or other people.
Yes.
Right.
It is one of my favorites. And so the ideal self is really important from the neuroscience because it anchors us in what's called the PEA, which is a positive emotional attractor. And what that does is it sets us, it kind of pulls us in the direction of our dreams and of our vision. So that's the first stage. The second stage is then the real self. Okay, so where am I today? In this, the real self is both an assessment of where am I strong, where are my strengths, as well as, okay, are there any gaps, anything I need to work on? And that's okay. But we start with the ideal self, then we move to the real self. The third stage is the learning agenda. So after we do the assessment on the real self, it's like, okay, well, how do I learn what I need to learn? And that can be a number of different things. The fourth step, and this is where I think it gets really fun, is practice and experimentation. So you guys and the coaching you do, right? People will be like, okay, I want to be a better speaker or whatever. And okay, so this is what I need to learn. Now it's time to put it into practice, experiment with it, and see, okay, how'd that go? What tweaks do I need to make? One of the things we can do in this stage, if we set it up as an experiment, it takes some of that pressure away. Because I'm experimenting. It's not I'm supposed to go and be perfect. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it's always our own personal belief that we are more deprecating of ourselves than anyone else. We're very critical of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I'm always weird, but I'm okay with that. I think when you can videotape some of these things, because I remember back almost 20 years ago, the first time I was in a sales training and they videotaped me doing a role play. And then literally back to 3 years ago, the first time that I had spoken on stage in front of a group in a long time. Both of those times I left and I went, man, I suck. I need to find something else to do. And then when I finally brought myself to it and I finally watched the videos, it was like, I wasn't as bad as I thought I was.
Yeah. That's the powerful thing when we can record ourselves and actually see ourselves in action.
Thinking about the ideal self.
Yep.
Are there particular questions that you use that our listeners can also use to begin to self-evaluate?
Yeah. And here's the thing. This is one of those activities this is not I'm going to do this in 12 minutes. Right. For some people, it might be that immediate, and that's okay that it takes more time because this is important. So things we can reflect on, our values, what's important to us, the different roles we have in our lives, and what's important to us in those different roles. Some people, if you just say, if you reflect on who you believe to be at your core.
Hey, Paul, we had someone that wanted to come on and ask a question. Can I bring him on real quick?
Sure. We have room. The screen will expand. Look who it is, Wendy Fraser.
Yay! Wendy, we just talked recently. Her episode is live this week on my podcast. It was amazing. Who's surprised by that?
Wendy has been a guest twice so far on Blabbit, and we figured in her last episode, we had a colleague of hers or a peer of hers who was also someone from Blabbit come in and bomb the show. And then of course, Bobbi, you and I met because of our Wendy connection, so it only seemed fair.
Yeah.
Hey, Wendy.
Nice.
Good morning. This has been great. I have been writing so many notes. I enjoy it.
I don't think it's a matter of keeping the energy up. I think what you mean is keeping the focus, keeping them engaged. What is that? Can you give us the secret sauce there?
Oh man. I think a lot of it was just turning it, I don't want to say turning it back to them, but like keeping it relevant to them about what they cared about. And I was lucky. I had so many students who were just so motivated that it was, I don't know, it was just such a joy to work with them. They had so much enthusiasm. So as long as I kept it directed in the way we wanted to go, kind of, they kind of led themselves. And it was just kind of a privilege to be part of it.
I think what I would add to that is you put the students in charge of things.
Yeah.
Everything from music and others, instead of working against things like technology, at that time they were doing things like, oh, turn off your cell phones. I thought, no, that's part of their identity. So let's challenge them to think about what really cool tweets or messages they can upload during the breaks and how they could follow each other. So we tried to use things like that. And we had student facilitators. So we tried to engage them during the sessions and let them lead it as much as possible.